Normally, Josh gives me good words that make my heart sing. But this morning, those two words hurt my heart, Josh. They hurt my heart. I hate that it flips that thing to mute automatically. I hate it. Because to start my stream, I have to do 17,000 things. And I have to remember to keep doing all of them. And then it flips me to mute. Just boom, flips me to mute. Oh, man. And that's probably out of all of the things I have to do, that little mute button's priority is pretty high. You know, make sure that doesn't flip to mute is, and that's one thing I just can't figure out. I can't just look at it. It's actually, you know, when you go live in front of a camera and a whole bunch of people are supposedly watching you, it's hard to think about everything else. It's not easy to remember things, you know? Anyway, let's watch OJ. It's already at the right speed. Yep, rub against that microphone. Thank you, sir.
Interesting number.
Is there a setting? There's a billion settings for mute. I even got a new device to help me unmute, and look, it's not working right now. See that? There's no buttons that are working.
Keep your voice up, please.
And it depicts the fatal large stab slash incised wound to the front of the neck. It starts from the left side of the neck and goes upwards to the right side, extending to just below the ear, but you can't see it in this frontal view.
Sound should be fine now. The sound should be good now.
Photograph. You can also see a portion of one of the stab wounds of the left side of the neck.
Doctor, did you, using a one-to-one photograph, measure the nature of the wound that we see, this stab inside wound you described in photograph B13?
Yes, as I told you earlier, this photograph only shows portions of the major stab slash incised wound. In the 1:1 photograph, the portion seen measured 3.5 inches by 1.25 inches, and this wound, as you can see, transects the thyrohyoid area, which is the area between the voice box, which is the larynx, and above the voice box there is a bone called the hyoid bone. It is a
That's them. They muted it for some weird reason. You can tell because you can hear the static. What is his name? I can't remember his name anymore. I'm trying. He was there in the last video too.
definitely another photograph which you'll see the right end of that same wound is also sharp. So this wound is an incise slash stab wound. That is, the knife started as an incise wound and then penetrated the neck area, and it traversed from left to right going upwards. And if you look carefully, there's another photograph which you can see, which I have reviewed, which shows a bridge of tissue there, which would indicate that is the starting point of this wound. And if you review the description, the area of the description of the structures in the deeper portion of the neck were injured more on the left side compared to the right side. So basically the wound was deeper on the left side, and as it went to the right side, it became shallower.
What is the significance, if any, of that observation?
That would also support the opinion that the wound was inflicted in a left to right direction.
Now, Doctor, in the photograph B13, there appears to be an area that is, as you look at the photograph, to the right of the end of that, or the beginning, as you've testified, of that stab incised wound. What is that area?
That is the left side of the neck, and that has a stab wound there.
Doctor, I would like to invite your attention to photograph B18, which is the leftmost photo on the lower row of this exhibit 352. What is shown in this photo, if it bears on what I just asked you?
You can see the stab wound, the lowest of the 4 stab wounds on the neck. The left side of the neck has 4 stab wounds. They're numbered 1 to 4 from superior toward the top of the head to the interior. And I'm referring to stab wound number 4 here, which is the one which you see portion of it here.
And here being photograph B13. Yes. Doctor, in inviting your attention to B18 and what appears to be on the leftmost portion of the neck of Nicole Brown Simpson, what are we seeing there? I'm sorry, if you'll give me the pointer for just a second.
Yeah.
I'm referring to this area on the photograph. What are we seeing there?
That is the leftmost portion of this large incise slash stab wound, which I already described.
Is the appearance of that stab wound, that area, of significance to you?
Yes. This is what I wanted to bring up. It's a sharp pointed end, and so it started as an incise wound, but then you see a small bridge of tissue there where the penetration of the knife took place, where there's a penetrating component to this wound which started as an incise wound, but there's a penetrating component. You can see a bridge there, and then the wound continues transecting the structures I already discussed. There's also injury to the vessels I told you in the neck.
Doctor, what vessels are in that area of the neck?
Both sides, you have the carotid arteries on both sides and the jugular veins, and the carotid artery was transected on both sides.
What is transectomy?
That is, it was literally divided into 2 pieces.
What is the effect of transecting a carotid artery?
Massive bleeding.
And what will be the reaction of the body to a transection of either the left or right side carotid artery?
Bleeding, and you could have sudden loss of supply to one side of the front of the brain. You could have seizures, and then ultimately you could die because of the rapid bleeding from this large vessel.
Doctor, the jugular vein, left or right side, will produce what kind of body reaction if transected?
That can cause bleeding. Sometimes jugular vein transection can result in air being sucked into the vein and causing air embolism. But the principal usual effect of cutting of any vessel is bleeding.
Doctor, inviting your attention to B16, excuse me, does this give a fuller depiction of the depth of that major stab incised wound?
Yes, this is the thyrohyoid. I'm talking about B16 now. You can see the thyrohyoid area transected, and if you look behind the larynx, the stab wound is also, the incise slash stab wound is also passed through the hypopharynx or the pharynx, that is the structure behind the larynx, and you also have evidence that the sharp force injury has caused injury to the cervical spine. This is a spine you're seeing here in this photograph right here.
In photograph B16, and you're pointing to approximately the middle portion of the wound itself, is that correct?
Yes.
Doctor, I'm sorry.
And then what you see here as pale structures is the carotid jugular vein area. In the neck, the jugular vein is on the outer side of the carotid artery, and they both are in a sheath called the carotid sheath. It's a covering around those structures there. So if you read the description of the autopsy report, the left and right carotid arteries both were transected. The left jugular vein was almost transected. There was only a bit of the vein left in the back. But on the right side, the jugular vein was only had a 1/4 inch cut. And this is significant because this also would go along with the opinion that the wound was deeper on the left side and shallower on the right side, because the vein was only partially cut. As I told you, the vein is on the outside of the artery. So that would also support that opinion that the wound is shallower on the right side compared to the left side, which would again go with my opinion that the wound was from left to right, going upward to below the ear.
All right, Mr. Calvert, would you wind it up?
All right, could I have just a couple more
Yeah,
questions?
no, I'm just giving you.
Morning. Doctor, inviting your attention again to B16, did you examine the, what I'll call margins of this major incise stab wound, as well as its depiction in B13, as well as its depiction in B18?
Yes.
What are the margins?
The margins don't show any, margins are the borders of this large wound, the borders, and they do not show any additional cuts.
Is that of significance to you?
It is of significance to me because that means there was no resistance whatsoever when that wound was being inflicted.
Doctor, what would you expect a person who was about to receive that kind of wound to do if the person was physically capable of doing anything?
Objection, House Speculation.
Sustain.
Doctor, in your experience, have you studied how people react to threats of incise stab wounds?
Yes?
Doctor, given the absence of cuts around the margin, I'm sorry, withdraw that question. Assuming that Nicole Brown Simpson had the capacity, physical capacity, to try and avoid that major stab incise wound being inflicted, what would you expect her to try and do?
Objection, House Speculation.
Sustain.
Doctor, if there were cuts along the margin, what, if any, significance would it have to you in identifying what, if anything, Nicole Brown Simpson had done before or during the infliction of that wound?
Objection, Compound, House Speculation.
Oral.
You may answer the question, Doctor.
If you have additional cuts, that would support that there was some struggle involved, there was some movement of the neck and head involved, so it was not a clean-cut wound as I see it here.
Doctor, if Nicole Brown Simpson was unconscious at the time that that major stab incise wound was inflicted, would that be consistent with your identification of no cuts around the margin of that stab incise wound?
Objection, improper hypothetical.
Oral.
You may answer the question, Doctor.
That would go along with the findings of no additional cuts, single major incise/stab wound, which runs from the left to the right, deeper on the left, shallower on the right, opinion I have given.
Doctor, did you form an opinion after your review of all of the material, all of the photographs, as to when, in the relationship of the receipt of all of the injuries that Nicole Brown Simpson received, that this major stab/incise wound was inflicted?
Yeah, based on all the crime scene photographs which I had opportunity to see, based on the blood flow on the ground, based on the lack of any blood on the back of the left hand, my opinion is that Miss Brown was on the ground, face down, when this wound was inflicted. My opinion is that the head was extended backwards and the knife was used to cause this incise/stab wound from the left to the right.
Doctor, if I can slide over here for a moment, and if you could use me in my head and hair, would you demonstrate what is your opinion as to the manner in which that last major incise stab wound was inflicted?
Objection, improper demonstration.
Oral.
No foundation.
You may do that, Doctor.
Assuming that you are face down on the ground and this ruler is my weapon, I would expect the head to be hyperextended this way and start an incision this way from the right side of the neck, run in a horizontal manner, and go upwards towards the ear, with this part being the deeper portion and this part being the shallower portion. And the blood flow pattern on the ground, which I saw in the crime scene photographs, the lack of additional cuts, the deeper wound on the left side compared to the shallower wound on the right side, would support this opinion.
And a 6-inch long knife blade would be consistent with doing that kind of wound?
It would be capable of doing this wound.
All right.
Your Honor, just
Yes,
may I just take this in?
please. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the evening.
You do that, Judge. You do that. You go take your recess for the evening. Linus, where were you for the boring parts? Where were you for the brush burn incident? We got examples of what a brush burn is in case you didn't know. Where were you for that? Now we have stab wounds. Finally, we have stab wounds and you show up. That's just not fair. It's like someone who just takes the end off of an Italian loaf and leaves just the middle for everybody else. Everybody wants some of the end. Linus, we saw Judge Fleischer today. It was great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, jugular. Took me a second to figure out they were talking about the jugular, Chinny, because I'm not that smart. And if you just mispronounce the word like wrong like that, I get really confused. But I got there in the end. Let's go on their break. Let's watch them all leave for the day. Leaving for the day from work is the best part of every day.
Please remember all of my admonitions to you. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves. Do not form any opinions about this case. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you. Do not conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you. All right, as far as the jury is concerned, we'll stand in recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Kelberg's argument regarding the factual dispute as to the Blue case, the fact that on the Abernathy case, the discarding of the samples was done by someone other than Dr. Golden, and that in the Hall case, the presence or absence of that gland had nothing to do with the ultimate conclusions.
Well, these are all issues that go to the competency of Dr. Golden. They're issues that we have to review regarding the reports that have been filed with Your Honor as to whether or not mistakes have been made in the past by Dr. Golden, or whether Dr. Lakshmanan
Vicky, I
and his
need
staff
you.
were aware of those mistakes. But
I need you to
for them to be able to
help
pick
me.
and choose and say, yes, he
My
made these errors. He made 30
mic
errors
is
in this
on.
case, and in 2 other cases, one case which resulted in the dismissal of a capital murder case.
I'm yelling for one of my
Dr.
kids.
Golden misdiagnosed an entrance wound and an exit wound, and a person who had been in jail and in custody for a prolonged period of time was rendered factually innocent by Judge Pounders. They have chosen, I guess, to bring those things up themselves for whatever strategic advantage may lie in doing that. But I don't see where the court should rule in limine on any prior activity regarding Dr. Golden's competency. They have put it in issue, and we should be allowed wide cross-examination.
All right.
Can I briefly respond, Your Honor?
Yes, briefly.
For the record, Dr. Bodden and Dr. Wolf did not point out anything to Dr. Lakshmanan. There was a joint examination on June 22nd, and Dr. Lakshmanan was not told of anything identified by Dr. Bodden or Dr. Wolf. Dr. Lakshmanan saw exactly what Drs. Bodden and Wolf saw, and
Well,
Dr. Lakshmanan identified whatever he did.
Mr. Kelberg, the issue is Dr. Golden's
I
competence.
understand.
We agree.
Your Honor, the court is well aware of motions in limine. I am contending under Section 352, which the court is well aware of, does not violate the Sixth Amendment right to confront and cross-examine witnesses, that this evidence should be deemed inadmissible. And that is what I asked the court to rule on. And I believe there is no basis from the defense to say that the court is without jurisdiction to rule on a motion in limine. If the court is without jurisdiction, then I must have been missing something for 17 years of practice, because it's such a common procedure for courts to make such rulings in advance of the anticipated testimony. And the court understands that if in fact there's going to be testimony permitted, and just to refresh everybody's recollection, including Mr. Shapiro's, we made a motion in limine regarding the first 2 incidents, as the court will recall. The court made a ruling, in essence, saying that we were wrong. And I abide by that ruling, and that's why we're going to bring the matters out.
So I think I gave a split decision on that.
Well, you did, Your Honor. That
Yes.
is quite true.
Yes.
But nevertheless, we're not here contesting the court's ruling as to those 2 issues that were deemed admissible. And we're here merely now because we have these 3 additional cases which we have examined, and we say claims are made, mistakes were made. We say either no mistakes, Blue, Abernathy, nothing attributable to Dr. Golden, and completely unrelated to these cases before this jury, and in the case of Hall, something that is simply of no significance whatsoever with respect to that issue. So on that basis, I ask the court to rule under 352 that this evidence is inadmissible.
All right. Thank you. All right. As to the Blue case, since there is a factual dispute that will involve essentially the court and the jury having to try that case as well, I'm going to sustain the 352 objection as an undue consumption of court time. As to Abernathy, since it appears from the offer that is not contested that Dr. Golden did in fact retain the brain and that it was actually processed and handled and then discarded by another doctor, I find also that that is subject to a 352 objection that is well taken. As to the Hall matter, this involves the thoroughness in which a body is examined, the amount of time that is spent during the course of the examination, and I find that does have substantial probative value, and I'll allow cross-examination as to the Hall matter. All right. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Let's have.
One brief matter, just
Yes.
for the record, because the defense objected to certain, I think, in fact, all of our autopsy photographs, but they asked that a particular photograph, G34, be used in our presentation along with the photos that the court has ruled are admissible, and I have no objection to doing that, and the defense has agreed that we may also use a cropped photograph G25 showing the hand of Mr. Goldman, which has one particular injury that is not clearly visible in the alternative photograph which the court allowed us to use, which is G26.
That's correct, but it should not in any way be viewed as a waiver of our previous objections.
Noted. Thank you.
Nothing further.
Let's have the jurors, please. Ladies and gentlemen. All right, Dr. Laxmanan is again on the witness stand, and good morning, Doctor.
Morning, Your Honor.
Doctor, you are reminded, sir, that you are still under oath, and Dr. Laxmanan is undergoing direct examination by Mr. Kelbert. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed any further, as I mentioned to you earlier in the week, that some of this presentation will be unpleasant, and we understand that it's difficult duty as jurors for you to have to view some of these items of evidence. However, it is necessary that you consider each item of evidence that is presented to you. If you have difficulty or find yourself feeling very uncomfortable, and if you think it would be appropriate to take a break, please feel free to let me know. All right? All right, Mr. Kelbert.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Your Honor, for the record, we have moved the easel again at the suggestion of one of the deputies to try and do as much as we can to shield the photographs from the audience section and at the same time give the ladies and gentlemen of the jury an opportunity to view the photographs. I would ask if the newest movement creates an inability on any of the jurors' part to see what the juror feels he or she needs to see, I would ask that the court be apprised of that so that we could perhaps juggle it a little bit better.
All right, the court routinely canvasses the extremities of the jury panel for their ability to see.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, proceed.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Morning, Doctor.
Morning.
Your Honor, I have what appears to be a newspaper photograph that I'd ask to be marked as Exhibit 353.
All right, have you shown that to Mr. Shapiro?
I showed it to Mr. Cochran this morning,
All right. People's 353?
and I'll ask Mr. Fairtlow to put it on the Elmo. Doctor,
Yes. With the court reporter, please.
Linus, if you're still here, when he's talking, now, when you just missed, was it 2 days? Was it 2 days or more? Oh gosh, I don't even know. How do I not know the answer to this? How many days in a row did this man talk about knives? But anyway, if he continues to talk about the knives again today, Linus, we no longer use the word knife or think about a knife when he says the word knife. We think about something else. Just change knife to something else. Don't worry, you'll figure out what to change it to when he starts talking.
Thank you, counsel.
Doctor, if you could invite your attention to the photograph, the Exhibit 353 that's on the overhead. Doctor, does this photograph fairly and accurately depict the demonstration that you performed yesterday afternoon regarding your opinion as to the manner in which that major stab/incise wound was inflicted to the neck of Nicole Brown Simpson?
It catches one moment of the beginning of the description of the fatal stab incise wound I described yesterday.
And doctor, given how you appear in this exhibit, is it your opinion that the perpetrator of that stab incise wound used his or her right hand to inflict that injury?
Yes.
And is it your opinion that the perpetrator used his or her left hand to pull the hair of Nicole Brown Simpson and thus reflect the neck in a hyperextended fashion as shown in this photograph?
Yes.
And if Mr. Fairtlow will print that, I think
Yo,
we'll print that.
send that perpetrator to jail. Send them to jail. That's horrible.
Doctor, if you could step down, I'm going to put back and take the pointer with you, please.
All right, Mr. Calvert, if you just wait for opposing counsel and their experts to
Absolutely.
position themselves.
And Your Honor, as we discussed with Mr. Cochran, we're going to have some easels up, and there's going to have to be some movement to allow everybody to see everything, and at the same time have certain exhibits presented for the jury's observation.
All right, Mr. Calvert.
I think I lost my witness for a second here, Your Honor. Doctor, I want to go back to the photographs B13 and B16 regarding the blood flow that you would expect from such a stab incise wound. Are you familiar with the term called aspiration of blood?
Yes.
What does that mean? If you'll keep your voice up, please.
Aspiration means that you aspirate the blood into the airways or the respiratory tract.
And aspirate it, in essence, means swallowing it instead of down the esophagus, down your windpipe.
Yes, basically the blood enters the windpipe and you can't breathe.
And is aspiration of blood of any significance in evaluating a sharp force injury such as the one seen in these two photographs, B13 and B16?
When you have an injury of such a nature to the neck, especially slicing the laryngo-hyoid area, you would expect some bleeding and aspiration of blood into the respiratory tract, and none was found here.
You have reviewed Dr. Golden's report concerning an examination of the trachea and the lungs?
Yes.
And does he make a specific reference with respect to whether or not any such aspiration of blood was found?
No.
He makes no
I mean,
reference.
he makes a reference about the lungs and bronchi, but he doesn't describe any aspiration.
Were representative samples of the lungs preserved by Dr. Golden at the autopsy?
Yes.
Have you examined those preserved samples?
Yes, I have.
Have you examined them from the standpoint of looking for evidence of aspirated blood?
Yes.
What, if any, findings did you make?
None.
None? You made no findings, or?
Maybe I made findings, but there's no aspiration which I could see in the sections I examined.
And that would be consistent with the absence of a finding of aspirated blood in the trachea
Yes.
and in the lungs?
Yes.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor? To speak with Mr. Cochran. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, doctor, assuming that there was no blood aspirated by Nicole Brown Simpson, what, if any, significance does that have to you in forming any opinion as to the circumstances under which this wound was inflicted and she subsequently died?
As I opined yesterday, she was most likely face down when the final fatal stab incise wound was inflicted. And I also opined that the neck was hyperextended, and when this incision took place, all the bleeding, the blood flow went to the ground. And also the injury you are discussing injures nearly all the four major blood vessels there, both the jugular veins and both the carotid arteries, and this would lead to sometimes immediate death or death within a very short, within a few minutes. And since there is bleeding there, she was definitely having blood pressure for at least a short time, which would cause her death. And also because of the position, I'm not surprised if she didn't aspirate because the blood flowed out to the ground and there was no evidence of aspiration seen.
Doctor, you have had an opportunity to review photographs taken by the police department at the Bundy scene when the bodies were found, is that correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have another board of photographs that I'd ask to be marked as Exhibit 354, entitled "Blood from Sharp Force Injuries to the Neck of Ms. Brown."
Do you want to just put it on top?
I'm going to. Let's see. Let's try that. Excuse me. Doctor, inviting your attention on this new exhibit, 354, I believe I'd ask the court to have it marked as. I think 353 was our single photograph.
354.
Inviting your attention to a photograph that is marked CS11. Does that photograph have some significance to you on the subject about which you were just testifying?
Yes.
What is the significance?
Miss Brown Simpson is lying semi-prone here on her left side, and if you can see the left forearm and hand, the knuckles are opposing the ground.
Does that mean in contact with the ground?
Yes. And you have her right hand flexed at the elbow and under her chin area, around the chin area here. This is the head here, and this is the
Keep your voice up,
head
Doctor.
here, and the face here, and then the chin is here. So this other hand is somewhere in that region. Now, if you look at crime scene photograph 39, we look at crime scene photograph 11 now, I'm giving you the general position. If you look at crime scene number 39, the same knuckle, if you look here, the knuckle for the index finger and the knuckle for the middle finger is pale, and there's no blood staining there. This would indicate that this hand was in contact, because you'll have massive blood flow from this neck wound. And this means that this hand was in contact with the ground. This is my opinion. When this neck was hyperextended and incised. So the blood flowed around the hand and left the areas in contact. You can also see the watch area here and this area, which didn't have blood on it, because those are the areas in contact. So the blood flows, and whatever is in contact with the ground will not have any blood stain. And that supports my opinion that she was on the ground face down when this fatal wound took place, with the blood flowing around the extremity as I just described.
Doctor, which hand, CS crime scene 39 photograph, which hand does that photograph depict?
The left hand.
And I ask you to assume for your opinion that that photograph fairly and accurately represents the condition of the hand as the body was observed on June 13th, 1994.
Okay.
Now, doctor, I want to invite your attention.
This 90.
I think we have a mistake. On the board, it says June 13th, 1995. Somebody patched a 5 over our 4. But I'll ask, Your Honor, that we'll remove that patch or put another one on. It's obviously from 1994.
Yes.
Doctor, I can't quite see that. CS40, I believe, is the photograph in the same row on the opposite side. Is that photograph of any significance to you?
Yes, this also shows that the right hand area, this is the right hand, which we are looking at, and if you look at the area around the knuckle, proximal phalanx, this is the area of the hand. If you read into crime scene photograph 11, it would indicate that this part of the hand is in this region here.
Indicating, Your Honor, for the record, the doctor took the back of his right hand.
Listen, guys, real quick. If you have any medical questions about what the doctor is saying, please forget what he's saying and ask an expert. Oh, if only we had a nurse to talk to who is way more knowledgeable than a doctor. Anyway, ask Nan. If you don't understand what a brush burn is, don't listen to this doctor. Ask Nan.
And had it up against
The chin area.
on the left side a bit of his chin.
So these photographs clearly demonstrate the blood flow pattern, and why these photographs support my opinion, which I opined yesterday, as to the neck stab / incise wound being the last wound which Ms. Simpson suffered.
Doctor, in your opinion, the head can be pulled back with the left hand by use of the hair, and the neck hyperextended, and still have the two hands in contact with the ground, as you've indicated here?
Not only one hand in the ground. The other one was there when after the incision was made, and then
Contact with the chin?
yes,
So one hand in contact with the ground, one hand in contact with the chin when the head is pulled back. Is that your opinion?
no. One hand was in contact with the ground. The head was pulled back. The other hand fell in place when the final resting position came in.
All right. And so both hands were on the ground at the time the wound actually was inflicted.
Yes.
Now, doctor, inviting your attention to what appears to be blood around the head of Nicole Brown Simpson in photograph CS11. Doctor, assuming that that is the blood of Nicole Brown Simpson, is that blood volume that appears in that photograph consistent with the kind of bleeding you would expect from that major stab incise wound seen in the photographs in Exhibit 352?
Yes.
How long would it take, in your opinion, for that blood to be flowing outside of the body to create what we are seeing in crime scene 11 photograph?
As I described earlier, this is the last wound, in my opinion. And I also discussed loss of blood, and if you lose about, I don't think I discussed that. If you lose, the normal blood volume is about 5 to 5.5 liters in an average human being.
Can you give us an idea what a liter is?
A liter is 1,000 cc, so 5 liters is about 5,000 cc.
Can you give us, hang on, can we move it into a system that most of us might understand?
Okay.
Gallons, quarts?
It's about 1.5 gallons, roughly.
1.5 gallons is the equivalent of,
The blood volume, because normally, and this I'm talking about the U.S. gallon, because the imperial gallon is much higher amount. I think the U.S. gallon is about 3.4 or 3.5 liters, if I'm right, and the imperial gallon is about 4.4. So
I didn't even know there was an imperial gallon.
Sir, come on. Guys, that's about, a liter is about a little less than 3 beers. 3 beers. There you go.
imperial
So
gallon is in the
I'll be
Commonwealth.
satisfied with the US gallon.
Yeah. So it's about 1.5 gallons of blood volume, and just an approximation. The normal blood volume, as I know, in the metric system is 5.5 to
Amateurs.
5.5 liters. If anybody loses 2 to 2.5 liters rapidly, they will go into shock. And following shock, you more or less will die after that, because without medical treatment, because your heart will go into irregular beats, and then you'll die. Ms. Brown had other injuries, which also would cause significant bleeding. She had 4 sharp force injuries to the neck here. She has some sharp force injuries to the head, which would also cause bleeding. And those, in my opinion, occurred before this wound. So accounting for some blood loss from those wounds, and this, I would say she died within a few minutes, probably much less than a minute also, because she would have gone into rapid
Hi,
shock
Comic
with this
Shield.
massive injury.
And Doctor,
I wasn't supposed to stream this morning, but my plans got canceled, so I thought, what the heck? I was major late anyway.
is that time frame, minutes to perhaps less than a minute, sufficient for that volume of blood to flow outside of her body?
Yes, because as I told you, these are large vessels in the neck, the carotid arteries. The carotid artery roughly pumps about 200 cc a minute on both sides, and you also have the jugular veins, which are large venous channels. There'll be a lot of bleeding. Plus, also, all the smaller vessels are getting cut at the same time. I'm not discussing the smaller vessels.
When you say smaller vessels, smaller blood vessels?
Yes, which are branches of these vessels.
And what will be the effect of having those injured?
All will be bleeding till the blood pressure goes to 0. And blood pressure goes to 0 when you lose about 25% or 30% of your blood volume.
200 cc's a minute is like half of a beer a minute. Half of a beer a minute. Which is how quickly I drink. Just kidding.
Mr. Fairwell, suggest pulling the microphone. I'm not sure which microphone. Doctor, when you testified yesterday about this
YouTube
stab
is
inside
mean.
wound, you talked about, in your opinion, how it is deeper on the left side and shallower on the right side. Was there also something about the angulation of the wound which was of any significance to you?
Yes, it angulates from the mid portion of the left neck upwards to the right side of the neck below the ear. The wound ends just below the right ear.
How is the angulation of any significance to you, if it is, in forming your opinion as to the sequence or circumstances of how the wound was in fact inflicted, as shown in the demonstration yesterday afternoon?
That will support my opinion in the manner that when the head is hyperextended and a right-handed person inflicts this injury, at least a person used his right hand to inflict this injury, the upward angle will fit the scenario which I just opined.
Now, Doctor, you said a right-handed person, and then you talked about a person using his right hand. How do you distinguish those two concepts?
Because some people may be strong in both the hands, and some people are, so there could be equal dexterity in both the extremities.
Equal dexterity in both extremities?
Yes.
And extremities meaning, in this case, the hands?
Yes.
And if you try to keep your voice up, it would really help the reporter because she's behind you. It's very difficult, so. Doctor, before I move to another photograph that you briefly talked about, B18, I just want to talk briefly about an area on B13 that appears on the left side of the face of Nicole Brown Simpson, and what appears to be some kind of discoloration. Do you see that in the photograph?
Yes.
Is that of any significance to you as a forensic pathologist?
Yes, that is the discoloration caused by postmortem lividity, which is also known as liver mortis.
And we touched on that, I think, on Friday when we were looking at those forms that Claudine Radcliffe filled out. Can you point out the area, first of all, in the photograph?
This area here and this mottled area here.
I know the court can't see it. My representation would be that the doctor pointed to the area just above the left side of the chin, and also, would you point again, doctor, to the other?
Below the left cheek area.
And the left cheek area of the photograph, B18.
Court's familiar with the
I'm sorry,
photograph.
B13.
Court's familiar with the photograph.
And again, we're going to get into a much more detailed discussion of lividity, but for our purposes here, doctor, what is it, and how does it have significance, if any, to you?
Lividity is the draining of blood after the circulation has ceased to the dependent parts of the body by the action of gravity, causing discoloration in areas which are not under pressure. So,
Let me, if I could I have our Exhibit 354 board? If you just slide it this way. No, I don't. Thank you, doctor. Because you've used some terms, dependent part of the body, and so forth. Can you use photograph CS11
Yes.
to demonstrate what you're talking about, dependent part of the body?
yeah. In CS11, you see the left side of the face of Miss Nicole Brown Simpson is the most dependent part of the body, touching the ground, and almost touching the ground except for the interspersed right hand I discussed earlier. So the discoloration which I showed you in B13 is the draining of blood to that area. Because of this position, she ultimately came to rest after death.
And doctor, when you're talking about dependent part of the body, in essence, are you saying the lowest part of the body?
In that position, yes.
And obviously that can change depending on the position of the body.
Yes.
But in this particular photograph, CS11, with respect to the face, the dependent part of the face is which side?
The left side of the face.
And then is the appearance of lividity that you've identified in B13 consistent with what you would expect to see from a body that had been in that position?
Yes.
Doctor, is there anything, I'm sorry. You mentioned on B16, I think the thyroid area, is that correct?
Yes.
And in your testimony, as I recall, you used the term cornu, C-O-R-N-U, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that area shown in some fashion in photograph B16?
It's approximately shown here in the right side here. This is the thyroid cartilage I'm pointing to in B16, and the cornu, C-O-R-N-U, are also known as horns, H-O-R-N-S, thyroid horns. They are situated at the back of the upper part of the thyroid cartilage on both sides, and this right cornu was also incised by the same wound as it was traversing from left to right.
Incidentally, doctor, this wound in B16 is in a gaping state, is that correct?
Yes.
You talked about lines of Langer, or Langer's lines. Do those lines come into play in this issue of the gaping state?
No, in this situation, the neck has almost been sliced half from front to back, so it's more than this line of Langer. All the structures here have been cut, so that the wound, the neck is not as stable as it should be because the spine has also been cut. So you have, and also the positioning of the body when you take a photograph.
Keep your voice up, please.
When you take a photograph from a front view, because of the gaping wound, you see more gaping.
Now, doctor, did you find that in Dr. Golden's original protocol, he described this major stab incise wound that we have seen in the photographs B13, B16, and a small portion in B18?
Yes.
Did Dr. Golden also diagram in one or more of the forms that you've previously identified that same injury?
Yes, he has.
Did he, in his original protocol or his original diagrams, identify the injury to the right cornu?
No, he did not.
Is that a mistake for him not to have addressed that in his protocol?
It is a mistake.
Is it a mistake of his not to have diagrammed that in one or more of the diagram forms available?
It is a mistake.
And doctor, have you considered those mistakes? Those are two mistakes then, is that correct?
Yes.
Have you considered those mistakes as to their significance on all these issues you've been asked about?
Yes, I have.
In your opinion, does that mistake of failing to identify it in the protocol and the mistake of failing to diagram it have any significance on any of the issues that you've addressed?
No.
Why not?
Watch your
That's
mouth, and you need a girlfriend.
A injury, in a massive injury to the neck, and most importantly, the neck organs was saved and it's available for review, and that's how I saw it. And to me, it has no significance as far as the cause of death goes, or in explaining what I just explained regarding aspiration and other issues. And it's a mistake, but it's not of significance for any of the issues as far as the cause of death, bleeding patterns, and evaluating the injury.
Does it have any significance in your ability to assess the class of knife or classes of knives which could be responsible for inflicting that major stab incised wound?
No, because the corner has been incised, so it could be both a single edge or a double edge knife. Anything with a sharp edge could have caused that transection of the corner.
So this is one of the sharp force injuries that you are not able to distinguish by the appearance of the injury itself, whether it's a single edge or a double edge,
That is correct.
but it is a sharp force injury that is consistent with a 6-inch long single edge knife blade.
Yes, but I would favor it being a single edge because there's one area which, if you look at B18, the wound started as an incised wound, but then there's a bridge here following that, which I would favor a single edge knife, but because a double edge knife would not leave a bridge there. Because a single edge knife, when you start using the sharp portion of the knife to make the cut, and then you do the penetrating part, the blunt edge will leave a bridge there. And that is why this photograph is important, that this wound, even though I can't say with full certainty that it is only a single edge knife, I would favor a single.
I get it. This part, when they're talking about the actual stabbing, is elevated emotionally. However, let's say I was happily married right now. No, seriously. Seriously. Let's say I was happily married. All right, hold on. Let's say I was happily married right now, right? And I'm in a murder trial. Whether I'm on the stand for murder or not, this doesn't matter. I'm in the courtroom, and they're talking about, my dearly beloved husband getting murdered, right? Every tiny little detail would be unbearable for me. So when they talk about finding blood on a gate, and I know that was from my dearest husband, I'm trying so hard, but I just can't. All right, that would affect me. You know what I mean? That would terribly badly affect me. I wouldn't be able to sit there with my lawyers looking smug and confident and smiling at them and things like that when they're talking about blood on a gate, when they're talking about blood on swabs, when they're talking about, DNA. I would be upset at those points. A lot upset. Maybe, I don't know. A lot upset at those points. Not just the stabbing part. Now, yeah, absolutely I would be upset at the stabbing part. This is horrible to hear. What happened to her was horrible. I mean, I want to wear something around this area to protect myself so no one could ever do that to me. But I know I can't. But when they were talking about Nicole's hand must have been on the ground when she died, like not fighting off OJ, because it was on the ground like this with her fingers up because the blood pooled around it. If I heard that about someone I loved, that would absolutely affect me. I would not be able to sit in that chair stoic. All of a sudden now he's upset. This is too much for him. He can't handle it. Come on.
But a double-edged knife can create a wound of similar nature.
Doctor, just for the
And
record,
you can see the bridge better. You use a magnifying glass to see the bridge very well.
I think you may be able to see it with a magnifying glass, but I'm afraid I think the jurors probably can't see it from where they're seated. But for the record, Doctor, you were pointing to an area on B18 that is it's to the left side of the neck area, and it is to the area that is immediately adjacent to where there appears to be that side of this major stab incised wound. Is that correct?
Yes.
Doctor, is there anything else of significance to you with respect to these three photographs, with particularity on this stab incised wound that we have not discussed?
No.
Before we move to the more detailed description of the other stab wounds, we have just a moment to set up the easels and maybe ask all counsel to help us out a bit and give us a little room.
Given our problems here, if counsel want to step into the well, they're welcome to do so.
I think counsel should just leave the room. Jude, I can't get that song out of my head every day. It's coming right on. I'm not fast forwarding it. It's
The
an
protocol.
awesome song, Jude. Awesome.
Blocking juror number 7's view.
Juror number
Come over
7.
here.
All right, let me just check. 160.
Guys, we have been doing this since December. Get out of juror number 7's freaking way. It's like me with my mute button. Like, how many times do you need to be told to get it right? Obviously, for me, 1 billion. But you guys are professionals. Stay away from juror 7's way. If I was juror 7, I would demand to speak to a manager, and I want my money back.
5, can you see these items?
And Dr. Lachman, you may be blocking.
All right, thank you.
Doctor, this is the blow-up of the actual original protocol, is that correct?
Yes.
What page or pages in this protocol reflects Dr. Golden's identification of this major stab inside wound?
I think it's page 3 and 4.
I'm going to ask Mr. Lynch to turn to page 3 if you need some help.
That piece of paper makes his hands look very
Doctor,
small.
on this page, where, if at all, do you see the start of any description regarding that injury?
It's page 3. In the bottom of the page, it says description of incised wound of neck and the evidence of injury. And then it starts the description of the wound and then continues to page 4.
All right, before we flip to page 4, Your Honor, for the record, I'm going to mark B13, 16, 18 along the left margin of page 3 by the description where Dr. Lakshmanan has identified. And now if we could continue on.
Page 4 continues the description of what all I just discussed. It also discusses the injury to the carotid artery, the jugular vein, and what I'd like to point out is the description of the right jugular vein where there's only a 1/4-inch cut, whereas the internal jugular vein on the left side is almost transected, which again would support my opinion that the left side was a deeper part of the wound compared to the right side, which was shallower.
Doctor, and does this entire page cover aspects of the description and opinion from Dr. Golden regarding that same injury?
Yes.
So, Your Honor, may I also mark similarly along the left side B13, B16, B18 of that series. Now, Doctor, we have to the left of Mr. Lynch a blow-up of another one of the exhibits from 349 and its smaller version in the 348 series. Is this one of the diagrams that was used by Dr. Golden with respect to drawing in observations made during the course of the autopsy?
Yes.
Does this diagram contain any reference to this stab incised wound that we've been discussing over the last few minutes?
Yes.
Would you step perhaps to the...
It shows the wound in the left neck going up from the midfoot to the left neck up to the lower right ear. It's a diagrammatic representation.
And Doctor, does there appear to be any description or writing made by Dr. Golden?
Come on, I know doctors can't write. I know they're known for their scribbling. What the heck? Okay, incised. Maybe that says wound. Maybe that says Wednesday. That's incised. Diagonal. I wonder if that's originating from the right, maybe. Upward, that might be trajectory, I don't know. Upward something. Ear lobe, right earlobe, firefighter. Come on, you can write neater than that so we can read it.
Reflecting his observations of that wound.
Yes. This particular handwriting here refers to this wound, and you can also see it starts with the edges smooth and then continues up to here.
When you see the words edges smooth, is that consistent with your examination of the margins, the margins of that stab incised wound?
Yes.
And the significance of the edges being smooth?
I discussed it that it's a single cut, and in my opinion, there's not any resistance offered.
By Nicole Brown Simpson?
Yes.
Your Honor, where Dr. Golden has, I'm sorry, Dr. Lakshmanan has testified regarding the entries by Dr. Golden on this form, may the record reflect I have encircled the area in red and
Yes.
the big diagram form
Nan
22,
can
and I'm
read
writing
doctor. I forgot. Toward.
B18. Now, Doctor, I'm going to ask Mr. Lynch if he would to take down 22 and put up another form. By the way, that was on board 3B, and I can't tell the number. I think that's 0B, the protocol, the original protocol, but I'll verify that when we get it down. It's on the other side. 0B, Mr. Lynch confirms.
All right, this one's much easier. With Muck Flood, Andy, yum, 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 beef, Point, Mick Jagger. This one's much easier to read. They were more careful this time.
Doctor, this is a Form 20 that's used by Dr. Golden in the course of the autopsy?
Yes,
And is there an entry by Dr. Golden on this form with respect to that same neck injury?
yes, you can see it on the neck, going from the left side, the mid part of the neck to the upper right neck below the ear.
And is there any writing that you attribute from Dr. Golden to that particular injury?
Yes, it says trans here, that means transverse, and then up, going up here, this part here.
And Your Honor,
Yeah,
where
that
Dr.
clearly says
Lakshmanan
Thomas.
has testified regarding the diagram by Dr. Golden on Form 20. I'm circling it in red and out at the side writing B13, B16, B18. Now I'm going to ask Mr. Lynch to put up a copy of the
Wait.
addendum report.
There was something on her belly.
I'm sorry, actually, before he does
What was
so,
that?
I may have just a moment to get a different diagram. I'm going to ask that this board, which is 6B, be put up. By the way, 20 was,
Does anybody know what I mean when I say Attack on Titan? That is Attack on Titan right there. Right there. Attack on Titan.
2B. Doctor, there's a Form 24, is that correct?
Trans is in
Is this another one of the forms
transect,
used by Dr.
says
Golden in the
Dan.
course of the autopsy?
Yes,
And is there any entry or markings on this form that reflect upon the same injury we've been discussing?
yes, he has shown the injury to the thyroid area here, and has given his description. So this and this whole area, and this whole area would reflect the injury, of the internal description of the injury to the neck, which I just opined on.
Now, Doctor, does this form depict in a diagrammatic fashion the cornu or horn area that you talked about earlier this morning?
Yes, because there's a lot of writing here, I've used this part. This is the thyroid cartilage, the side view. This is the corner area of the thyroid cartilage, and you can see it here too, but only with the lines there, it's very difficult to see, but you can see it on both sides. This is the thyroid cartilage.
All right, Doctor, if you could stay for just a moment. If I write in thyroid cartilage, and would you point out again the horns? Starting down here, please. All right, I'll circle that area. And where is it on the other side, Doctor? I'll circle that area and draw lines and write the word horns.
And in this picture, you can see them here, the front view.
And in that area, Doctor, I'll circle in red and write.
Okay. Normal people would have thought this freaking area was the horns, because it didn't make sense to me. That see how high they are? I wish we could see this one too. This is not the horns, guys, even though it looks like the horns. And when you see this picture over here, don't think of the horns as the things that obviously look like horns. You gotta go down further. Down here, below the horns, are the actual horns.
Horns to represent what you've identified. And all of the writing in this upper right quadrant of
Yes.
Form 24.
Yes, and also this side, because this is the description of the.
So you see right here where it looks like horns, or it will when we get closer? Those are not the horns. Don't look at the horns when you're looking for the horns.
thyroid area, but here he describes the left common carotid artery transected, left LIJV is left internal jugular vein, subtotal transection, thin strand, which is the posterior portion of the vein, which is left there, and on the right side he says, right internal jugular vein only nick, right common carotid artery transected. So this all would belong to this injury with this valve.
All right, and doctor, subtotal is a fancy way of saying what? Subtotal transection.
Almost transected with only a small bridge of the vein wall left in the back.
And Your Honor, where the doctor has indicated there has been an entry by Dr. Golden on this diagram, I've encircled it with a red pen, and again I'll write in the upper left-hand corner B13, B16, B18. By the way, doctor, there's a stamp that appears in the upper right corner of that diagram. Do you see
That's
that?
what it sounds like.
How does that
He
stamp
said
come
it-
to be on these?
At least halfway through. He said the wounds were at least halfway through.
Forms.
We have a blue card, just like your credit card. We make a credit card for every resident we have in our office, and you just take the card and you imprint any form or diagram you want to use. So you have the number, the name, and you can see we also have the crypt number that we discussed yesterday.
That's what I was
Number
saying.
4. Number 4.
All right, so if I circle this number 4 and I'll write in crypt number on the diagram, that is what her crypt number was as assigned?
Yes.
Okay. Any other entries on this particular diagram?
No.
Oh, incidentally, doctor, is it with respect to either the right upper quadrant or the right lower quadrant of this diagram that you would have expected Dr. Golden to have made a entry regarding the cornu?
Well, he has drawn a number of lines in the pyrohyoid area, but he has not specifically addressed that the right corner was incised.
Is that where you would have expected him to do so, in the upper right quadrant diagram?
Yes.
And that board was 6B, Your Honor, 24. Mr. Lynch is now putting up,
The more money you earn, the less you can write,
our
unless you're a
blow-up of
calligraphy
the
artist
addendum
and
report.
make a lot of
Is that correct,
money.
Doctor? This is the addendum report, the final addendum
Then that
report?
doesn't count for you.
Is there a page or pages of the addendum report which address the cornu injury?
Yes, page 2, number 2.
All right, we'll ask.
I
Mr.
wonder
Lynch to
how
consider.
rare they are. How rare are calligraphy writers nowadays? That would be a kick-ass job. I need to learn how to write calligraphy better than what I currently do and do that.
Where you've just pointed with the pointer, this is the entry by Dr. Golden to reflect the injury that you observed in the right cornu.
Yes.
And I think that's pretty self-explanatory, Your Honor. All I did was circle the area, item 2 on page 2, and I'll write B13, B16, B18. Now, Doctor, let me ask Mr. Lynch to get that down. I think we're done with this for the moment. That board was 8B.
And those pages were 8.5 by 11, guys.
Just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes. And Mr. Kalberg will be going to 10:30 this morning.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm not going to 10:30, Judge, and you can't freaking make me. I remember my one job, when I write, I use a lot of cursive. I write mostly in cursive because I don't have enough time to keep picking my pencil or pen up off the paper. That's stupid. It's stupid. I don't know. If they were going to go one way or another, they should have gone cursive way, not print way. Now they all print one letter at a time. So when I write, like when I'm working, when I'm in a job where I write, I mostly write cursive, but then, there's some random print in there too. And I remember when my one boss, he saw my notes one day and how it was cursive, but with a lot of random printed letters in there, mixed in with my cursive. And he showed me this article about how that's how psychopaths write. psychopaths write in cursive, but then they'll printed letters in. So I'm making fun of people who print, which is normal. That's how normal human beings apparently write. And it's not normal to write in cursive and then it's really not normal to write in cursive but then have, you know, some of your letters printed instead of. I write the way it's easiest to write that letter. So you know how Z's in cursive are like zzz? No, my Z's SIZD. It's easier for me. I like efficiency. So that's how I write. I mean, I read my stuff fine, but I don't think it's psychotic at all to write easier for yourself. But if you think printed is easier for yourself, sir, no. Go to cursive. Go to cursive. And it's cursive. I know that. But it's cursive. All of them, Josh.
Doctor, let me
All the
invite your
cats.
attention now.
I got rid of 3 this
specifically to
week.
the
3
photo on
cats.
Exhibit 352. I think council may want to move back. I think we're done with the 2 easels down there. B18, and now with respect to these 4 stab wounds that you identified earlier and briefly. Have they been given arbitrary numbers?
Yes.
And by arbitrary, what do you mean?
That is, they were just given numbers for convenience. They do not reflect sequence of infliction.
So if you have a wound that's injury number 1 or stab wound number 1, it doesn't mean that that was the first stab wound that was inflicted. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
And in this photograph, how many stab wounds do you see to the left side of the neck of Nicole Brown Simpson?
There are 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 3 of them are really stab wounds. One of them is a superficial sharp force injury there.
And when you say superficial sharp force injury, in defining, as you did yesterday, incised wounds as being longer than they are deep, and stab wounds as being deeper than they are long, how would you define this one?
Well, it could be the tip of the knife barely penetrating the upper part of the skin and soft tissue, or it could be a nick from the knife. It's difficult to specify on it because it's a very superficial wound. There's no depth which was available to analyze it.
Let's start with a kind of a collective question. Injuries 1, 3, and 4. From your examination of the appearance of those wounds in this photograph, do you have an opinion as to the class or classes of knives which could inflict each of those wounds?
My opinion is that they were all 3 caused by a single-edged knife, and that is, each of the wounds have a blunt end and a sharp end. Even though
Start with injury number 1 and just use a pointer. I don't think we're going to be able, at some point perhaps the jury will have a magnifying glass and an opportunity to look for that. But if you'll start by just pointing which is the blunt end and which is the sharp end of each.
injury number 1, you can see the blunt end in the lower part and the sharp end in the upper end.
All right, so as we look at the photograph, the blunt end is going to be towards the bottom of the photo,
Yes,
and the sharp end is going to be towards the top.
yes.
All right. How about injury number 3?
The sharp end is in the posterior part and the blunt end is in the front.
So when you say posterior, for our purposes, is that to the right side of the photograph?
That is correct.
And the sharp end is to the left side?
Yes.
And how about injury number 4?
The blunt end is to the left side of the photograph, sharp end is to the right side of the photograph.
What about injury number 2? Are you able to form an opinion as to the class or classes of knives which could have created that sharp force injury?
Injury number 2, I can't tell. It could be either a single edge or a double edge.
But in your opinion, could all 4 of these stab wounds then have been caused by the same single-edged knife blade?
Absolutely.
And as you described, one that was 6 inches long?
Yes, because as we discussed yesterday,
No, that's not
these
me.
stab wounds, if you read the
I'm
description,
glad too.
only have a depth of 1.5 to 2 inches. So you don't have to necessarily have the entire knife penetrate in this area. So you could have a 6-inch knife with a tapering blade, which could have caused these injuries.
Does Dr. Golden describe each of these 4 stab wounds in his original protocol?
Yes, he does.
Does he diagram each of these 4 stab wounds in one or more diagrams?
Yes, he does.
Now, doctor, given the area where these stab wounds were received, and given the nature of the major stab incised wound that you have described earlier in the 3 photographs, 13, 16, and 18, can you determine, as a forensic pathologist, whether, for example, starting with stab wound number 1, that stab wound actually punctured or struck in any way either the jugular vein on the left side or the carotid artery on the left side?
Dr. Golden's description is that they may have injured these vessels, but because of the massive near transection of the jugular vein on the left side and complete transection of the carotid artery on the left side, he could not see whether there was injury from these three wounds which I discussed, because in their depth, the region of the injury which they would have caused by their track in the body was the same area which had already been injured by the major incise/stab wound.
And when you say already, you testified your opinion was that the major stab incise wound came last, is that correct?
Yes.
And if in fact that is what occurred and these 4 stab wounds were already inflicted, would that last stab wound in essence create damage over whatever damage to the jugular and or carotid had been inflicted by 1 or more of the 4 stab wounds?
That is the opinion which was given in the report, which indicates that the injury, the massive injury to the carotid artery and jugular vein on the left side precluded him from evaluating injuries from these stab wounds.
Doctor, in your opinion, could Dr. Golden have made a more complete or detailed evaluation through dissection of the area to see if there was a way to state with greater certainty whether either the carotid or jugular was actually nicked or hit by any one of those 3 stab wounds or 4 stab wounds?
There could have been a little more dissection of the carotid vessels on either side of the transection, because the vein is difficult to dissect because it will fall apart. It's a very thin-walled structure. But the carotid artery could have been opened on both sides of the transection to see whether there are any additional nicks. And the report doesn't reflect whether that was done or not, but definitely it doesn't indicate that there was additional cuts.
Doctor, if that had been done, would it necessarily have allowed Dr. Golden to see whether any one of those stab wounds did in fact hit the jugular and or carotid?
If he had done the dissection, he could have said that he did the dissection and he didn't see it, which would support his original opinion, wherein he had indicated that he could not evaluate the injury to these structures because of the massive injury caused by the fatal stab wound, which was inflicted last.
Doctor, assuming that Dr. Golden failed to do the kind of dissection, more detailed dissection that you've indicated, would that be a mistake in your opinion in the manner in which he conducted the autopsy?
If he had not done the dissection, it would be a mistake. But if he had done the dissection and not recorded it, it would not be a mistake.
I'm sorry, not recorded it?
I mean, if his evaluation included that he had done the dissection, but he had not stated as such, then it would not be a mistake.
But if he didn't do the dissection, it would be a mistake.
I would do the dissection to see whether there's additional injuries there.
Doctor, if Dr. Golden did not do the dissection, in your opinion, would such a failure have any significance to you on any of the issues that you've been talking about?
No.
Including on whether a single-edged knife could have caused all of these sharp force injuries?
That is correct.
Why would that have no significance?
Because the opinion on the nature of the sharp force instrument can be made from the wound patterns on the skin. The bleeding patterns have been described from the vascular injuries, which I already discussed. So really it won't have a significance as to the cause of death or the manner of death or the bleeding blood flow patterns.
Doctor, if I could have the board, not the pointer, I'm sorry, the board that has been marked as 354. This is the one of the crime scene photographs. Assume for the sake of argument that stab wound number 1 did not strike either the left carotid artery or the left jugular vein. Would that stab wound nevertheless have caused some bleeding?
Yes, it would have. It's a highly vascular area of the neck.
I'm sorry,
Very highly vascular area of the neck.
And when you say highly vascular, what does that mean in lay terms?
The neck has got a lot of branches from the arteries, and you also have a lot of venous channels. And a wound to this area of the neck, which is 1.5 to 2 inches deep, would cause significant bleeding.
And if in fact either the jugular or the carotid or both had been hit, what kind of bleeding over and above bleeding without such a nick would you expect?
There would be more bleeding.
Now, doctor, is there a difference between the stab wound, what it can do to the carotid or jugular, and the incise stab wound that you identified as transecting? If
it just punctures the carotid artery, you'll have spurting of blood. But transection also you can have spurting, but you'll have more bleeding because the whole vessel has been transected. and also the person would lose blood pressure much faster and die earlier from the transection than just from a puncture. So the survivability for a puncture wound would be longer than a transection.
Doctor, let me invite your attention to another photograph from our Exhibit 354 that's marked CS12. And again, I'll ask you to assume that this photograph is a fair and accurate representation of the position and condition surrounding Nicole Brown Simpson as her body was found on June 13, 1994. And now I want to invite your attention specifically to a step that appears immediately above her body in that photograph. You see that, doctor?
Yes.
And you see what appears to be blood surrounding that, or part of the area of that step.
Yes, I see that.
In looking at the quantity of blood, assuming it is the blood of Nicole Brown Simpson, is that amount of blood seen there consistent with what you would expect from the 4 stab wounds that we're looking at on B18?
Yes,
Why is that, doctor?
because as I told you, the area of the neck is quite vascular, and whether they struck the jugular vein or carotid artery or they did not, still combined they would cause significant bleeding, which could account for this blood here if the Ms. Simpson's upper portion of the body had been in contact with that area.
After the wounds had been inflicted?
Yes.
Does the court wish to take a break at this point?
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our regular recess at this time. Please remember all my admonitions to you. Do not discuss the case amongst yourselves. Do not form any opinions about the case. Do not conduct any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. Do not allow anybody to contact or communicate with you with regard to the case. We'll stand in recess for 15 minutes. Still on the witness stand undergoing direct examination by Mr. Kelberg. And Mr. Kelberg, you may continue with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. And again, with the court's permission, could Dr. Lakshmanan step down? We'll put the photographic board, and maybe all counsel and Drs. Baden and Wolf will wish to retake their position.
And which board are you putting up, Mr. Kelberg?
I'm sorry?
Which board are you putting up?
352 again, Your Honor.
All right.
I agree, Josh. I agree.
Doctor, I'd like to now go into a more detailed description from you of stab wound number 1, and then go through the series of the 4 stab wounds.
Stab wound number 1 is
Keep your voice up again, please.
stab wound number 1 is located in the left neck, and it measures 7/16 of an inch by 1/8 of an inch in the photographic measurement I did, and
7/16 of an inch is what direction, doctor? Will you show us with the pointer?
in a superior inferior direction.
That's more or less up and down.
Yes. And 3/16 inch in the transverse or anteroposterior axis, as I'm pointing here.
Side to side?
Yes.
All right.
So this is the wound when I measured it in the state I could see it in the photograph, in the 1:1 photograph which I had.
The life-size photograph?
Yes. The wound in Dr. Golden's measurement is 5/8 inch in length in his description. The blunt end, as I mentioned earlier, is in the inferior part, and the sharp end is in the upper part of the wound. And this wound penetrated the left side of the neck in a left to right direction, and was up to 2 inches in depth.
Doctor, from the information in Dr. Golden's protocol and your evaluation of the life-size photograph, can you tell us anything about the relative positions of the perpetrator and Nicole Brown Simpson at the time stab wound number 1 was inflicted?
Well, if your clients don't
You
pay
kind
you,
of,
it's hard to get,
Question?
know, everything right.
Yes, and doctor, for example, can you say, when I say relative positions, can you say whether the two were relatively speaking face-to-face, one was behind the other? Can you give us any additional information from that stab wound number 1?
It could be a situation where they were facing each other, and the assailant had a weapon in the right hand, and that wound could have been inflicted in that manner.
Can you use me? I'll step over back here again.
Douglas, is that
Can
it?
you use me as Nicole Brown Simpson? Just
I think it's Douglas. I think his name is Mr. Douglas. That lawyer? I couldn't remember his name that you guys are saying is JJ. I think is Douglas. I think.
to show relatively speaking. Incidentally, when you use the term and I use the term relative positions, does that have meaning to you as a forensic pathologist?
It just means the positions in which these wounds could have been inflicted by the medical findings one has.
All right. Can you use me as Nicole Brown Simpson and indicate how, in your opinion, the Nicole Brown Simpson and the perpetrator could have been face to face and have the stab wound number 1 inflicted with a right-handed held knife?
In this manner.
And Your Honor, for the record, Dr. Lakshmanan, with his right hand clenched fist representing holding a knife, has raised his arm above my left shoulder and has it angled at about a 45-degree angle towards my neck.
All right, why don't you trade places so that the jurors can actually see the right arm?
All right. Doctor, let's ask you to do that again.
And the knife in question is a single edge knife, and the blunt edge would be on the lower part, and the sharp edge would be the upper part of the corresponding to the wound.
And is that consistent with what you see, in fact, in stab wound number 1?
Yes.
Now, doctor, are there other relative positions that could account for that?
There could be other questions too.
And is there any way for you as a forensic pathologist to be able to say with specificity what was the actual relative position?
No.
Is there any way, given that you cannot say with specificity the relative positions, that you can say whether the knife was being held by the right hand or the left hand of the perpetrator?
I cannot say that. I cannot say which hand.
And does the hand depend on what the actual, I'll tell you what, does the hand that has the knife then depend on the relative positions at the time the wound was inflicted?
That is correct.
Now, can you do basically the same identification process for stab wound number 2, or I'm sorry, sharp force injury number 2?
Sharp force injury number 2, I'm pointing to it right now. It's 1/8 inch. It's superficial. It's a superficial puncture of incised wound.
Doctor, in your opinion, would that superficial incised wound create any extensive bleeding?
No.
Incidentally, stab wound number 1, if it did in fact strike either the left jugular vein or the left carotid artery, would that wound, in your opinion, be fatal if there was no medical intervention?
It could be potentially a serious wound if the carotid artery and jugular vein was injured.
My question is, would it, in your opinion, be a fatal wound if, in fact, Nicole Brown Simpson did not receive immediate and appropriate medical care?
If she did not receive immediate and appropriate medical care, it would be potentially serious fatal wound.
Well, I would assume a fatal wound is a serious wound. In your opinion, is it a fatal wound?
Yes.
Now, doctor, in fact, if there had been such a striking of the jugular or carotid, could that wound be fatal even with immediate and proper medical intervention?
It could be fatal.
Now, sharp force injury number 2, in your opinion, is that a non-fatal injury?
Yes.
And other than being a superficial incised wound, does it have any significant bearing on the cause of death of Nicole Brown Simpson?
No.
Is there anything else about, can you tell anything about the relative position of Nicole Brown Simpson and the perpetrator from the appearance of that sharp force injury number 2?
The same statements I applied to the stab wound number 1 would apply to this.
So in the relative positions of face-to-face that you showed, is that a possibility?
That is a possibility, and it could also be the person who had the weapon in the left hand and was in the back. That same kind of wound could have been inflicted from a left to right direction.
And if it was face-to-face, again, it would be a knife held in the right hand?
Yes.
Now, stab wound number 3 in the photograph, B18, a description of that, please.
This stab wound is transversely oriented, that is side to side in this photograph, in contrast to the other wound, which is more in a vertical orientation. So this is more in a horizontal orientation. It's got a blunt end in the front and a sharp end in the back, and this wound measured 5/16 inch by 3/16 inch in the state of the photograph I reviewed, the 1:1 photograph.
And doctor, from your review of the life-size photograph, is your measurement consistent with any measurement made by Dr. Golden, given limitations of measurements from photographs that you described yesterday?
There's no significant difference if you take the limitations of the process into consideration.
And those limitations were?
I discussed them yesterday. The photograph I'm viewing is a two-dimensional photograph. It's a slightly gaping wound. Dr. Golden approximated the wounds when he did the measurement, and when you approximate, you know the wound can be longer because he measured it as a 1/2 inch long wound. And and I also indicated that the other problem when you do photographic measurement is that when you have a curvature like this, the neck is a curved area of the body, your measurement of the photograph doesn't take into consideration the curvature component, which you would do in a real-life situation when you're measuring the wound in an approximated state. So given those limitations, his measurements are not significantly different from mine.
Now, doctor, is, in your opinion, stab wound number 3 a potentially fatal stab wound if in fact it struck either the carotid or the jugular.
Yes,
And the same would apply if it struck both, I assume.
yes,
If it did not strike either, would it be a fatal stab wound?
no,
Would it still be a stab wound that would produce significant bleeding?
yes.
How about stab wound number 4? Can you give us some more detailed information?
Stab wound number 4 is the lowermost wound. It also has the same horizontal orientation. It's got a sharp end in the right side of the photograph and a blunt end in the front of the photograph. And this wound in its gaping state measured 9/16 inch by 3/8 of an inch, the 9/16 inch being the horizontal component and 3/8 inch being the vertical component. And Dr. Golden measured this wound in his original report as 7/8 inch in the approximated state. And given the limitations of the process, I saw no significant difference attributable to my measurements. And this wound also had a track in the body about 1.5 inches.
Now, Doctor, I don't think I asked you on stab wound number 3 about relative positions. Would your answers be the same as to relative positions of Nicole Brown Simpson and the perpetrator and the right-handed or left-handed nature of the knife being held as they were for stab wounds 1 and 2?
Yes,
All right. Now, stab wound number 4, excuse me, if that stab wound had in fact hit in any fashion either the jugular or the carotid, would that stab wound be a fatal stab wound?
yes,
And if it hit both, also a fatal stab wound?
yes,
And if it hit neither, a non-fatal stab wound?
yes,
Would it still be a stab wound which would produce significant bleeding if it struck neither the carotid or the jugular?
yes.
Would your I'm sorry, did you want to add something?
No.
Would your answers about relative positions of the perpetrator and Nicole Brown Simpson and the right-handed and left-handed nature of holding the knife be the same for stab wound number 4 as they have been for stab wounds 1, 2, and 3?
Yes,
Doctor, is there any significance to you as a forensic pathologist that these 4 stab wounds appear to have a linear relationship if one goes from the stab wound number 1 to sharp force injury number 2 to stab wound number 3 to stab wound number 4?
yes, it does have a significance because they're all localized to one area of the neck, which would signify that there was some limitation of movement created, at least to the neck area, when these wounds were inflicted by the assailant, because they are localized to one area that may more or less in the same area. And there's some movement because one wound is not as deep as the other, but still it would signify some partial
It's
immobilization
still a
at
bit
least,
too
because you're in a
hot.
localized area of all these 4
Still.
stab wounds in that area.
When you say immobilization, immobilization of who or what?
Ms. Brown Simpson by the assailant.
And immobilization
What about
is a
Utah?
long word to
Is it
me,
getting
in essence,
chilly?
what?
Prevent movement of the person by holding them or holding them against a wall or just holding them tight so that you have some control over them, that they cannot exert the same degree of movements as you would expect in a person who's not so compromised.
If a person were not so compromised, would you expect that person to try to avoid being struck by the knife?
Yes,
Objection, cross-examination.
And your answer, Doctor, is?
yes.
Now, Doctor, is there anything else with respect to a description of these 4 sharp force injuries along the neck as seen in photograph B18 you wish to bring out? If we could move, then we're going to go back to the protocols and the diagrams. And I'll ask Mr. Lynch, please. Got that position. We're putting 0B up. And we're putting, which is the protocol, and we're putting 3B up, which is our form, I believe, 22.
I love 70s,
Now, Doctor,
60s,
did Dr. Golden
70s.
address each of these 4 sharp force injuries that we've been looking at in B18 in his original autopsy report?
Yes, he has.
Where?
In page 5 and 6 of the report.
If Mr. Lynch can turn to page 5 of the protocol blow-up. Excuse me. Doctor, where does that start?
1, 2, 3, and 4 is the same numbers which I used when I described photograph
18, I believe.
B18. Yes. So
Correct.
it follows the same format.
All right, Your Honor, then on page 5 of the protocol in the upper left-hand corner, under description of multiple stab wounds, I'm writing B18. I'll leave it at that. And you said it continues on to page 6, is it, Doctor?
Yes, number 4 stab wound, the 7/8 wound, which I discussed last, continues to page 6.
If Mr. Lynch could flip that, please.
Just the first 2 paragraphs.
Would it be accurate, Doctor, that the description on B18 ends where I put the red marker here?
Yes,
And so, Your Honor, with that red marker, I'm making a U-shaped box, if you will, around those 2 paragraphs on page 6 and writing B18 within the margin.
Thank you.
Doctor, did Dr. Golden diagram in any fashion on any of the diagrams those 4 sharp force injuries?
yes, it did.
Is it seen in diagram 22?
Yes,
Would you show us, please, where?
yes, I'm going to.
And keep your voice up, please, Doctor.
The 4 stab wounds are described on the left side of the neck, in the lower right quadrant of this board, 1, 3, 4, and 2. And you have the description of all the wounds in this red.
Well, let's start, first of all, where do you see the description for the 4 stab wounds?
One description is here, and then you have 2, and then you have stab wound number 3 here, and 4 here.
All right,
So
Doctor.
the whole thing is the description for all the 4 stab wounds.
So basically, it's the lower half of Form 22, which has been used by Dr. Golden
Yes.
to identify and describe those 4 sharp force
Yes,
injuries.
and to repeat, this is number 1,
Right.
says 5.
You stop, let me just mark that. Which is number 1, Doctor? All right, I'm going to put a box around that on the diagram and write in SW number 1.
Yeah, and actually this includes also because it says 3 inches below the EAC, which is the external auditory canal. From here it is 3 inches below that here. So that should be good for this one.
All right, I'll raise the encircled area on the lower right-hand side of the diagram to include that.
And I'm sorry, and also number 2 is this 1/18 superficial puncture here, because I leave it here. So this is number 2.
All right, in that area, Doctor, I'm going to circle where you've just been pointing and write SW, actually SF for sharp force, number 2.
Yes.
All right, how about number 3?
Number 3 is here, and the orientation is given here, and this is happening, and this is the
All right. Would it be accurate to say, Doctor, that the area I'm circling now in the form diagram in the right lower quadrant is the area of the diagram of sharp force injuries 1, 3, and 4?
yes.
All right, and so I'm going to mark SW number 1, SW number 3, SW number 4, and then the area that you circled or the pointer outlined in the lower
Ground
left
beef
quadrant
got
of
so
Form 22,
expensive,
I'm
but
circling
that
and I'll
sounds
write
like a
in,
great idea.
This is SW number 3. Is that correct, Doctor? All right, now where is the description with respect to the fourth one?
Here.
And I'll circle that area and write SW number 4. Doctor, can you identify the content of Dr. Golden's description there for us?
Yeah, this is, he described this as a 7/8 wound, 132-inch blunt end in the front, sharp end in the back, 1 to 1.5 inches deep. And if you look at the description here, it is the same here, 1 to 1.5 inches before.
And here was a reference to page 6 of the autopsy form number 12. Doctor, anything further with respect to identification on these 4 sharp force injuries on diagram 22?
No. And for this diagram, that's it.
Was any other diagram used by Dr. Golden regarding these?
No.
Was there any reference to these 4 sharp force injuries in Dr. Golden's addendum?
No.
Was there any need from your perspective for any reference in the addendum?
No.
While we're in this position, let me cover just a couple of, pardon me, brief points, if we could.
All right, you put up 1B.
Thank you, Your Honor. You've got a position to see that. And this is a blow-up, Doctor, is it not, of the Form 15 document?
Yes.
Now, in the upper part of that document, there is a date and time listed. Do you see that?
Yes.
And that time is to reflect what?
Usually at the time the autopsy started.
And the Class A is checked?
Yes.
And that's what you indicated is the fullest type of autopsy performed in your office. Is that correct?
Yes.
You also testified yesterday, I believe, regarding a mix-up in identification of a specimen between urine and bile. Is that correct?
Yes.
Does this form show that front page that was completed?
It's not on Ms. Simpson's 15. It is on
Mr. Goldman.
Yeah, but the form doesn't reflect the mistake. The form is correctly marked as bile in Mr. Goldman. What was marked wrongly was the bottle. See, the bottle has spaces. The wrong box was marked off in the bottom, so not on the 15.
Okay.
And so that doesn't apply to this form.
And there is a box marked witnesses to autopsy which has been checked, and there appear to be the names of Van Adder and Lang, LAPD 61494?
Yes.
And that is to reflect officers Van Adder and Lang were present to observe the autopsy?
Yes.
Now, if we could flip this to the next Form 16. Now, you mentioned that this type of form is used to write in a lot of information as the autopsy is performed. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it also includes a reference to the time over which the autopsy was conducted, the formal autopsy. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in this case, is there an entry by Dr. Golden for that time?
Yes.
And where is that?
In the lower part of the form. The autopsy was started at 8:30 and completed at 10:30 from the inscriptions on this form.
Your Honor, I'm just going to outline that box with red on this Form 16. Yes. Doctor, also, is there, from an external exam list of areas, an indication by Dr. Golden regarding the height and weight of Ms. Brown-Simpson?
Yes.
And in this case, is the height listed as 65 inches as I'm outlining in red?
Yes.
And is the weight listed as 129, we'll assume pounds?
Yes.
Thank you. I think we're done with that then. I think we'll go back to the photo board if we could, please. Doctor, is there anything else that you wish to bring to the attention of the ladies and gentlemen of the jury regarding those 4 stab wounds or sharp force injuries?
No.
I'd like to move just briefly to what is obviously a cropped photograph that's right next to you in the lower series of photographs that I believe is marked B10. Is that the designation? You have a better view of it than I, Doctor.
That is correct.
Doctor, again, just to be clear, this is cropped pursuant to the order of the court, correct?
Yes.
And you viewed the full photograph, both in the set size as these are in general, and also in the life-size photograph. Is that correct?
Yes.
What is shown in B10?
It shows a small reddish-brown abrasion in the right side of the face, a short distance from the eyebrow area.
Now, you talked about an abrasion yesterday being a blunt force trauma type injury. Is that correct?
Yes.
And is the color that you see of that abrasion of any significance to you in evaluating when, in relationship to death, that injury was received by Nicole Brown-Simpson?
It was an ante-mortem abrasion. That means it happened when she was alive. And
How can you tell?
from the appearance of the coloration,
What is the coloration?
the reddish-brown color we have here would indicate it's an ante-mortem abrasion
Why is that?
because it shows evidence of vital reaction photographically,
Vital reaction meaning,
that it happened during when the person was alive.
is vital reaction something regarding how the body is reacting?
Yes.
What is the body reacting? I'd like to get a definition of that.
Basically, when you have an injury, I indicated that you will have inflammatory response and sometimes bleeding. Here there's no bleeding, but you have the reddish-brown color because of the vascularity of the structures underlying it, and there's no microscopic section available of this area. But looking at it from my experience and the appearance of this wound, it is a wound which happened when she was alive.
Doctor, can you identify any source for the abrasion that you see in that photograph?
It's a non-specific type of abrasion. There's no pattern to it, so any rough surface could have caused this type of abrasion, which could be any type of rough surface could have caused this.
From
Depending
your-
on what kind of items are given as hypothetical situations, we can discuss it further.
From your visits to the 875 South Bundy location, and you testified yesterday, you did examine the environmental surroundings there for looking for sources for blunt force trauma. Did you find any that would be consistent with being a source for this particular abrasion identified in B10?
Yes, there's a staircase there, and there's a wall before a metal sidewall, and this could be from the wall where there's a rough surface to the wall.
And how is that inflicted then between a rough surface of a wall and the area of the body where this abrasion is seen?
Well, the head could have been come in contact with the wall. That would be one way it could have been caused.
And come in contact in what fashion?
being pushed against the wall.
Doctor, could you slide the photograph board, just slide it down for me, take a look for a second. And I think it'll be helpful, Doctor, to slide the board back the other way so the microphone is not covered. Doctor, in your opinion, is that particular abrasion a non-fatal blunt force trauma injury?
Yes.
Is it of any significance to the cause of Nicole Brown Simpson's death?
No.
Is it something which would allow you as a forensic pathologist to identify with specificity the manner in which it was inflicted?
No.
Is there any way that you as a forensic pathologist can tell us in the sequence of wounds that were received by Nicole Brown Simpson when that was, other than to say it was received while she was alive?
No.
Did Dr. Golden describe this particular abrasion in his original autopsy protocol?
Yes, he did, and he also diagrammed it. He described it in page 8 of his autopsy protocol.
All right, before we move, page 8 and,
Diagram 22.
all right, if we could ask counsel to move briefly. Dr. Bondon will resolve.
All right, you put up again B0 and
3B, Your Honor.
3B.
And I'm sorry, Dr., page 8, was it?
Yes.
Well, it's official. I'm having chili for dinner tonight.
We need another few inches to help out. All right, Doctor, can you find on page 8 where there is a description?
Fifth paragraph. External injuries of the scalp, small abrasion, reddish brown, measuring 3/8 inch by 1/4 inch, appearing to be antemortem, is found lateral to the eyebrow.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that with the red marker, I'm circling that area. I'll write B10 on the left margin of that on page 8 of the Form 12 protocol.
Yes.
And Doctor, would you identify on the Form 22 where Dr. Golden has described it or diagrammed it?
Diagrammed it here, and you can see the description here.
All right, first of all, where he diagrammed it, I'll circle that area, and this is in the lower left quadrant. I'll draw a line out to the clear area, and I'll write B10 there.
And this abrasion description of antemortem, red brown.
Keep your voice up, Doctor.
Abrasion, reddish brown, 3/8 by 1/4 inch, antemortem.
And I'll circle that area and draw a line to connect to the earlier writing of mine of B10. Is there any additional information in the addendum regarding this one?
Yes, he did an addendum on this, and the measurement was changed in the addendum.
And this is 8B.
No, Chinny, the papers
Why
are
don't we
normal
go over
size.
Where we have
The lawyer shrunk.
protocol. Excuse me. Where is there a reference to this, Doctor?
Page 1, Roman numeral 2, item 2.
And I'll circle that on the blow-up and write B10 out as a margin. Now, what is the difference, Doctor, between what is described here in the addendum and what was initially, let me hold up,
Initial measurement of 3/8 by 1/4 inch. The revised measurement was 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch.
and Doctor, do you have any information from your review of all of the materials on which this revision to the description of that abrasion was made?
He made it an addendum, and I think what happened was he had included his injury in the body of the report under the systemic review, and he thought he probably didn't address it, and then when he saw the photographs, he addressed it in the addendum, thinking he didn't address it. But I don't have an answer why he called it 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch. I think he measured it from the photograph he had, and he measured it.
But in fact,
Motion to strike is speculation.
Sustained. Jury is to disregard the last question.
Doctor,
Yo, not me.
Sorry, Your Honor.
No.
Doctor, according
I do not wish for a chili potluck because I am 100,000 billion% sure every single person in this chat would try to kill me. Not try, succeed, succeed. Listen, I can't do spicy. It just started. Like after I turned 50, I cannot do spicy. It hurts. It burns my face, my throat, my tongue. Everything hurts. And when I say I can't do spicy, I mean root beer is too much for me to handle sometimes. When people say, oh, it's not that spicy, no, I cannot do that. Nacho cheese hurts me. So there's no way I would even look at any of your chili. Nope. I wouldn't even look at it. And I know what you're saying. I already know what you're going to say to me. No, it's really not that spicy. It's really not, Kathy. You'll be fine. I really won't be fine. Horseradish burns me. I don't know why. I was fine years ago and now I can't. It causes pain. It hurts my whole mouth. My face gets bright red like a brush burn. And if you don't know what a brush burn is, please visit my video, my live stream from yesterday. Yeah, at least Kelly's like, yep, mine's spicy, don't eat mine. Yours is family. Yours is 4-alarm? Is it 4-alarm, Kelly? Your family made chili? I don't know, Terry. It's scary as heck for me to trust someone with chili. Because you know, chili is habitually just a torture device. Alright, Terry, me and you will trade chilies and see if we can handle it.
according to the diagram, that diagram entry that we circled in the lower left side with the B10, that handwritten entry was made at the time of the autopsy by Dr. Golden?
Objection calls for speculation. Motion to strike.
Your answer, Doctor?
Yes.
One other thing, is there anything further on this abrasion?
No.
Is there any significance to you with respect to the difference in description, half an inch versus quarter inch, 3/8 inch by quarter inch, on this particular abrasion, on any of the issues you reviewed?
No.
And did you measure that particular abrasion from the one-to-one photograph?
Yes, I did.
What was your measurement?
7/16 inch by 3/16 inch.
So you have what would be a third series of dimensions for that particular abrasion, is that correct? Is there any significance to you in the difference between your measurement from the one-to-one photograph and the two measurements that are provided in the original protocol and the addendum?
Not of significance. There is a difference.
Is that difference a difference that can be attributed to something other than the limitations of the process of photographic measurement?
No, because there's only 1/16 inch difference.
And given that difference of 1/16 of an inch, is that difference consistent with the limitations that you've described of photographic measurement?
Yes.
My arm's getting tired. I'll put that down. We can take the addendum down. As long as we're in this position, one thing I failed to, I think, bring out with the protocol and getting back to the very first major stab incised wound, what we started with this morning of the aspiration of blood. You mentioned something about it being addressed in some fashion in Dr. Golden's protocol. Is that correct?
No, I'm not
Keep your voice
trying
up, Doctor.
mild.
We're going to put this back up.
Mild,
Mr.
still
Lynch.
spicy. No. But for those who are interested, that's Kelly's family. This 2-alarm chili.
And what is of significance
Kid-
here, Doctor?
If you look at page 9, 3, 4, 5, the paragraph just before the last paragraph of the page, you see injuries to the upper airway, including the incised wound of the hypopharynx and epiglottis have been described. Otherwise, the mucosa of the larynx, piriform sinuses, trachea and major bronchi are anatomic. No mucosal lesions are evident and no blood is present.
And is that the basis on which you form an opinion that there was no aspiration of blood by Nicole Brown Simpson from that major stab incised wound?
Yes, and also...
Keep your voice up, Doctor.
And also the next page.
All right, before we move to the next page, Your Honor, for the record, I'm outlining with the red marker that paragraph. I'm going to write B, 13, 16, B16, and B18, and the words aspiration of blood on the left margin. Now, Doctor, the next page. Is that correct?
Page 10.
Page 10, all right. Mr. Lynch is,
Under lungs, if you look, it says that the lungs, the section surface of the lungs show minimal congestion and no injuries or lesions.
and that again is consistent with your opinion of an absence of aspiration?
Yes. Because if you have aspiration, you will describe it when you section the lungs. You will see the aspirated blood in the distal portion of the airways, and you'll see it on the section of the lung.
And you also examined those sections of lung that were preserved?
Yeah. The sections which were preserved are examined.
And you found no evidence of that aspiration of blood?
Grossly.
When you say grossly, what does that mean?
On the sections we examined.
Your Honor, I've outlined that area on page 10. I'll again write B13, B16, B18, and aspiration, ASP of blood. Doctor, one other thing while we're on this page, we'll flip back to page 9. Is there an entry regarding the cornu, that horn, in Dr. Golden's original protocol that is not accurate?
That is correct.
All right, if we could flip back to page 9, because I think it's caught in mid-sentence in the flip. Doctor, inviting your attention to the last sentence that begins at the bottom of page 9 and continues then on to page 10. Does this deal with Dr. Golden's observation regarding that area, including the hornu or horns?
Yes, he says the hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage are intact inasmuch as the incised wound passed through the thyrohyoid membrane. And the ligament and both greater cornuas of the thyroid cartilage are intact.
Were they, in your opinion, intact?
No. The right cornu was cut, and I already addressed it earlier.
And that's a matter that is addressed as you've identified in Dr. Golden's addendum, is that correct?
Yes.
So you're unaware Dr. Lakshmanan has just made mention from page 10. I've circled it, and I'll write B13, B16, B18, and I'll write the word horns in quotation marks.
Yes, thank you.
So, Doctor, the reference here, in your opinion, would be a mistake by Dr. Golden?
Yes, because it was incised.
The cornu was incised on the right side?
Yes.
Is that mistake of any significance to you on these issues that we've discussed?
I already said it's not of significance because the whole neck organs are available and the major injuries have been described.
And does it in any way, whether it was nicked or not nicked, impact on the manner, sequence of how she died?
No.
I think we're done with that.
And the color, as I said, is reddish brown in color, and this would signify that she had blood pressure when she sustained this injury.
Doctor, how long, if you can offer an opinion, must Nicole Brown Simpson have lived in order for that coloration to have shown and be seen at autopsy?
You can get this kind of hemorrhage into the soft tissues within minutes after the injury.
And when you say within minutes, how many minutes?
You can get it as early as a minute because when you crush the tissues bleed, and you can get the bleeding immediately.
In your opinion, could Nicole Brown Simpson have died as little as 1 minute after this injury was inflicted?
Well, that's always a possibility, but it could be also a few minutes later.
Could Nicole Brown Simpson have received the sharp force injury that you identified as the last major sharp force injury inflicted, that fatal neck wound, received that within seconds of having received the blunt force trauma injury shown in this photo,
Yes?
and then lived for the period of time necessary, as you've indicated, to allow the discoloration?
No, not seconds, because you need to have enough blood pressure to cause this bruising. I misheard your question. It's the injury to the neck, which caused a fatal wound, must have occurred after a few minutes or a minute later, because you need some time for the bleeding to occur in the tissues. And for that reason, I would say that she was alive, at least for a few minutes, at least a minute if not more, before the last wound was inflicted, because once the last wound is inflicted, you won't have any blood pressure available to cause this kind of bleeding in the scalp.
Doctor, do you have an opinion as to any source or sources that could cause that blunt force trauma contusion?
It could be something like a fist. It could be an object with a round, smooth surface, like a base of a knife. Could do that. You could also have the head being struck against a smooth surfaced area, which is rounded.
And doctor, what, if any, physiological or body reaction would you expect from Nicole Brown Simpson having sustained that injury?
The injury itself is not fatal, but as you know, this is a covering of the head, the skin of the covering of the head, and you have the brain inside. And as you know that you can have what's called the concussion happening, which is transient loss of consciousness can occur. If somebody sustains a bruising to the head, it can occur.
And what is the effect if a concussion occurs?
You can become unconscious for some time.
For what kind of time period?
The concussion syndrome can occur for a few seconds to minutes, and you may not find any structural abnormality of the brain.
I'm sorry, you may not find any structural abnormality of the brain at autopsy?
Yes.
So in other words, a concussion can be sustained from this blunt force trauma, and you as a forensic pathologist at autopsy can't see something which confirms that that occurred.
That's correct. And this is commonly seen in boxers. Boxing, when people get hit with a fist, they transiently get dazed, or even longer,
Transiently meaning?
seconds, and then sometimes it can be even for minutes, and that's why you're seeing the countdown, and then they get up. And people have done studies, and they found that you don't find anything on CT scans or MRI scans in them. So
Okay,
I just wanted
before you run ahead, CT scans are CAT scans?
Yes.
And what's that a fancy term for?
It's basically a computerized tomography of the computerized axial tomography of the head, which is taking
Can we get
multiple.
it down to a lower level for me? Is it a fancy X-ray?
It's a fancy X-ray giving three-dimensional views.
All right, and the other one you were talking about was an MRI?
Yeah.
What's an MRI?
It's a magnetic resonance imaging.
And what's that a fancy device?
That's another way of looking at the brain structures when somebody is alive.
All right, and what do you want to say about those with respect
What
to?
I'm trying to say is that you can have the syndrome of concussion without leaving any findings at autopsy, and you can have the syndrome of concussion when somebody is alive without leaving any brain damage.
Doctor, assume hypothetically that Nicole Brown Simpson was struck on the head, either with a hand, fist, or the rounded end of a knife in the manner you described, and became dazed, as you've indicated, and slumped to the ground. And the perpetrator then moved from where her body was over to where Mr. Goldman's body is found, to that area, and then came back to Nicole Brown Simpson and raised her head in the manner you described yesterday and inflicted that major incised stab wound as you demonstrated yesterday. Would that circumstance be consistent with the time frame required to create the bruising coloration in the scalp as seen in B20?
Objection calls for speculation and proper hypothetical not based on any facts in this case.
Overruled.
You may answer the question, Doctor.
But I also want to ask in your hypothetical situation regarding the stab wounds of the neck and the other wounds she had on the head.
All right, what do you want to ask?
Want to know whether they were also there when this bruising occurred.
Let's assume they weren't there.
Then, to answer your hypothetical question, that is a possibility.
And let's assume they were there.
Then also it's a possibility, but that means the stab wounds to the neck and the other sharp force injuries to the head must have occurred around the time of the bruising, but before the final wound in the neck.
And on what basis do you draw that distinction?
Because my opinion is that the major wound to the neck is the final wound, and the stab wounds to the left side of the neck have hemorrhage in the deep tissues, which indicated that she had blood pressure when those wounds were inflicted. And they would also cause bleeding. We also have evidence of injuries to the other sharp force injuries to the left side and back side of the head, in addition to this bruising on the right side of the head, which all have evidence of bleeding in the tissues, which indicates that she had blood pressure when those injuries were inflicted. So, and I already opined that the last wound was the fatal incised wound to the neck. So that is why I'm saying that I wanted to know in your hypothetical whether these wounds are also there when the bruising to the right side of the head took place.
And if they were, they would result in a lowered blood pressure, is that correct?
They would cause lowering of the blood pressure, but what I'm saying is they could have occurred concurrently while the infliction of the stab wounds took place during the altercation. The person could also have been pushed or hit on the right side of the head simultaneously while the stab wounds are taking place.
And still produce the discoloration that you've seen in this photograph B20?
Yes.
And still subsequently then produce the major stab incised wound as the last sharp force injury received?
Yes. What I'm trying to say is you have the sharp force injuries to the left neck, you have sharp force injuries to the side and back of the head, you have a blunt force injury to the right side of the head. I can't say how they occurred in sequence, but they occurred before the fatal stab wound. And since I already opined that the fatal stab wound occurred when the person was incapacitated and probably unconscious, face down, combined these injuries somehow resulted in her being unconscious.
I'm sorry, resulted in her being
Unconscious.
Doctor?
With blood pressure.
With blood pressure?
Yes.
Doctor, in your opinion, given that set of circumstances, could all of those other injuries have been inflicted in a very short period of time?
Yes.
How short a period of time, in your opinion?
Within minutes, the altercation can take place so fast because you're only talking about 3 sharp force traumas to the head and 4 sharp force trauma to the left side of the neck. And this blunt force trauma, they could occur at a very rapid sequence.
When you say within minutes, do you mean multiple minutes, or are you using that
Few
term
minutes.
colloquially?
Few minutes, or even less than that, much less than that.
How much less?
Within a minute also, because this kind of altercations can take place pretty rapidly.
And does the period for the altercation to some degree depend upon the relative physical size and strength between the perpetrator and the victim?
Yes,
Does it also depend on whether or not the victim is taken by surprise or is aware of impending danger?
yes,
Does it also depend upon how motivated the perpetrator may be in inflicting injury?
yes,
Does it also depend on whether the perpetrator has the element of surprise on his or her side?
yes.
And from the standpoint of the forensic pathology, is there any way medically on that basis alone that you can draw conclusions to reasonable medical certainty as to how these occurred?
No.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor? Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, did Dr. Golden address the contusion that is seen in this photograph B20 in his original protocol?
Yes, he did.
Did he also diagram it?
Yes, he did.
Now, Doctor, let me move, we'll come back to this photograph, and we'll come back to the diagrams and the chart protocols in a moment, but I'd like to move to the photograph that is immediately to the right on this Exhibit 352 of photograph B20, what has a marking of B33 brain tissue sample. Do you see that, Doctor?
Yes,
Are you familiar with that particular sample that is shown in that photograph?
yes, I am.
What is that?
That is a sample of the brain of Ms. Simpson, which was saved by Dr. Golden during his autopsy, which I saw when I reviewed the tissue samples with the defense pathologist, Dr. Barden, and Dr. Wolf was also present at the time.
And that was on June 22nd of 1994?
Yes,
Now, you indicated that Dr. Golden saved this section of brain tissue, is that correct?
yes,
And it was saved in one of those jars that you showed us yesterday from the photographs?
yes, the formalin-containing jar.
Was there more than this one sample of brain tissue saved by Dr. Golden from the autopsy of Nicole Brown Simpson?
There were several samples saved.
Approximately how many samples were saved? And if you need to refresh your memory with something, please do so.
I have to refresh my memory.
All
I
right,
think
while
that-
he's refreshing his memory, Ms. Clark, could you,
Shall I go on?
Yeah, what do you need?
I need my volume.
I thought it was Ms. Ford again.
Can I move this, Your Honor?
In addition to this specimen, which had the contusion, there were 13 sections of brain and brainstem of varying sizes.
That were preserved from the autopsy of Nicole Brown Simpson by Dr. Golden.
Yes,
So if we include this section, we would have 14?
yes,
And doctor, did you examine each of the 14 sections grossly, that is, without the aid of a magnifying device or a microscope,
yes, I did.
on June 22nd?
Yes, I did.
At the same time that Doctors Baden and Wolf were with you to do so if they so desired?
Yes,
When you did this, did you observe anything of significance to you in looking at the brain tissue that is shown in the photograph that is B33?
there was evidence of hemorrhage on the surface of the brain, which we refer to in medical terms subarachnoid hemorrhage, SUBARACHNOID hemorrhage, and underlying the hemorrhage on the surface, because it was a section of the brain, there was evidence of discoloration of the gray portion of the cerebral cortex, and this was a contusion of the brain, and it measured 10 millimeters by 4 millimeters when we examined it on June 22nd, 1994.
Doctor, when that examination took place, did either Dr. Baden or Dr. Wolf tell you anything regarding what, if any, observation they made of that tissue?
We were together, and I and myself and Dr. Barton felt that this was the brain contusion.
Did you identify that without hearing from Dr. Baden as to any view he might have,
Absolutely,
and as to any view Dr. Wolf might have?
absolutely.
Were basically the three of you independently looking at this series of tissue samples?
Yes,
And when
But
you,
independently looking at it, but collectively, it is one sample there.
independently looking as your 3 individuals, but you're all looking at the same thing?
Yes.
All right. Now, doctor, how long did it take you in looking at that sample to think that there is something of significance to you as a forensic pathologist shown in that sample?
Immediately, you could realize there was a pathology there.
Why can you do that immediately as a forensic pathologist?
Because if you look at the photograph here, you see the normal gray-brown cortex, and you see the white matter underlying that, and that's a normal appearance. And it's obvious that this part of the brain is discolored and hemorrhagic, that is, there's bleeding into this part of the brain, and that's how a contusion looks.
And doctor, when you use the term contusion with this brain tissue, are you using it in the same terms that you have used it with respect to the photograph B20?
Yes, it's a bruising of the brain.
And as
All right, we're going to hear more about the bruising of the brain of poor Nicole tomorrow. Today's Saturday, guys. Make sure you make chili and go do something fun. There's this interactive something at an archery range. I think it's like virtual reality, bow and arrow. That maybe I'm gonna take my daughter to today. I don't know yet. I have to get some videos out, but I'm planning on that. That will be fun. She will love that. So guys, go out and do something fun today, because it's stressful. Life is freaking stressful. Go do something fun and get your mind off of it. And I'll see you in the morning. Have a great day, guys. Bye.